Hello out there, and I've got a bit of a fun video today as we count down the 5 most essential Benchmade models that are currently in production. Yeah, and I know that's a lot. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is I want to count down the 5 knives that I think are the flagships for the company at this day and age. So if you're getting into Benchmade now, what are the 5 models that you should definitely be checking out and trying to pick up? And so what that means is that a lot of the Benchmades that I own and really like are not going to be able to make this list. Knives that are discontinued, like the 770, for example, or the Colgera, which is a favorite of mine. Those aren't going to be on the list. The Aries isn't going to be on the list. You know, other models that I'm a fan of or that I just think are really cool or good users, not necessarily going to be on the list because I don't really see them as flagships. And one big one that is not going to be in this top 5 is right in front of you today, the Anthem. And I leave the Anthem off not because it isn't great. Let me tell you guys, I've had this knife for between 1 and 2 weeks and it has not left my pocket. It is that good and I'm enjoying every moment with it, don't get me wrong. But for what I think Benchmade's identity is currently, this knife just doesn't really fit in with not with what they're all about, but just defining the company with a few models. The Anthem wouldn't be one of them because it's not as accessible, it's harder to get your hands on, and I think for a knife to really be a flagship model, there has to be so much hype around it from a lot of people having it, and it just doesn't seem like the Anthem has that at this moment in time. Maybe if they came out with a cheaper version or they came out with one that more people wanted to get their hands on, but it just isn't that kind of knife, so I'm leaving it off. So what is going to be on the list? Well, let's get into it and start with number 5. Number 5 is probably the biggest curveball of the entire list because it is a slip joint. It is the Proper. And the reason why I like the Proper and the reason why I think this really sort of defines the direction that Benchmade has come in the past few years is that Benchmade with the Proper did something they had never done before. They created a slip joint, but they managed to do it while keeping their identity and making it really feel like a Benchmade. And it's hard to explain that, and it's hard to really describe that, but this knife, it fits with what Benchmade really is and what they're trying to do. It's a very classy piece. It is high quality. I really like the micarta on this handle scale. And yeah, the Benchmade logo here, it just fits, it works. And it really feels as though this is something that Benchmade had been doing for years and years and years and not a new kind of direction for them. And that's what I really like about it. When it comes to slip joints, is it the best functioning slip joint? Maybe not. You know, most of the slip joints that I have and that I think about, you know, have these super thin edges like this case knife right here, and this one is not quite built with that kind of intention. So it isn't super thin, but it still cuts well for everything that I needed to do. So, you know, it's been a very functional slip joint for me as well, and it's the knife that got me into slip joints, so I'm really thankful for it for that reason as well. So really good knife coming in at number 5, a new direction for Benchmade while staying true to what, you know, they are all about and their tradition and history. Number 4 is going to be, well, no surprise to anybody. Number 4 is a platform that almost anybody can get their hands on, and it has so many different options and choices out there that it's a no-brainer for me. That is the Mini Griptilian. Mini Griptilian for me, one of my favorite models, period, just because of the simplicity of the build and basically just how inexpensive this knife is and how good it is and how much bang for the buck you get. Lots of different choices, lots of different steels at this point, different colors, different blade shapes, so many different directions you can go with this knife. And it's just a great all-purpose EDC and a great introductory Benchmade. Now, in the past year or two, you've seen maybe fewer innovations coming with this platform. They have upgraded just the base models to S30V, which is definitely a good thing, although I didn't think it was necessary. But while this isn't necessarily the biggest and brightest star in the Benchmade stable, it definitely is something that just continues to go and and basically holds up as time goes on. One other thing that I really like is that if you want to get something sub $100, you definitely have that option with the base model. But over the past few years, as they have progressed, they've come out with this G10 version that also has 20 CV steel. So you can go a little bit more higher end and get something a little bit fancier, a little bit better materials, still in the same kind of design. So very cool by them. Can never really complain about a mini Griptilian, as you will know if you have watched this channel for a good amount of time. So number 3 was a tough choice. Number 3 was one that I think if things go the way that I think they're going to go in the next 6 months to a year, this would definitely be number 2 or number 1. Here is the Super Freak. The Super Freak is what I think potentially the future of Benchmade. We just haven't seen it happen yet, but I'm really a fan of what they've done with this model, how they've gone from the rubbery scales to this beautiful G10 M4 blade steel. Just very smart to give us the variation and make this a completely different knife from its predecessor. And what I mean by in 6 months it could be different is that if they continue to push new innovations with this line, if they make this kind of configuration on, say, the Mini Freak, and then maybe some other variations as well, this could really be the flagship knife for the entire company. Is that what's going to happen? I hope so. I don't think it takes much brain power to understand that this is a winning platform where a lot more, could come from it. But who knows what Benchmade is going to do and how quickly they're going to do it. So yeah, at this point, it is just a lot of potential, a lot of satisfaction with what they've done so far. But you can't really look into the future with any kind of certainty. And yeah, while it would seem like it would be the most obvious decision to keep pushing forward with this platform, who knows what's going to happen. But as it is, this knife, definitely number 3, definitely one that you should pick up if you are just getting into Benchmade. For me, I've called it like the paramilitary 2 of Benchmades, and it really could become something like that if they chose to go that route. So what was the number 2 knife that was almost supplanted by the Super Freak? Well, it's a platform that everybody knows and loves. It's the 940, 943. I currently don't own a 940, so what you're looking at is a really excellent 943, and this is just a classic. This is a knife that still to this day, even though we're not getting as many new limited editions and as many new variations to it as we were a few years ago, this is still a knife that people immediately think of when they think of Benchmade. This is, for a lot of people, the be-all, end-all kind of EDC. And you can really see why. It's excellent. There's a lot of different handle configurations available now. So if you don't like the aluminum, you can get G10, different pocket clips, different blade shapes with the 940 or the 943. Very comfortable in hand. It is, for a lot of people, the perfect EDC. And honestly, I've never had a bad day carrying this knife. So when it comes to the essential Benchmade, it's very, very hard to beat the 940, 943 platform. Warren Osborne designed a heck of a lot of very good knives for the company, but there is not a single one that has supplanted this in just endurance and just continuing to be relevant in the market. This knife is pretty much at the top. So what's number 1? I'm sure you guessed by now, guys. It really couldn't be anything else. I put some time into thinking about this list and what was going to be number 1. But at the end of the day, it had to be this. It had to be the Benchmade Bugout. The Bugout for Benchmade has just really turned the company on its head. And it's done so many things for the company in evolving from basically the 350 years and years ago to the 530 to the 531 and now the 535, which is in front of you. And this platform has just taken off, and it is sort of spawned its own kind of spin-off with the Bailout, which is a larger version, and a Tanto. And just where they could go with this is just endless, and they're already coming out with more and more configurations and variations and exclusives and a gold class. And the thing about it, the reason though, it's not that the choices that make this the essential Benchmade, it's the fact that it's just a very, very good knife. And unfortunately, I'm on record in doing my first review talking about how I don't really like the original scales. And that was true at the time. You know, at the time, I didn't really like the grivery that they had on it. There was a little bit of flex to them. It really just didn't work for what I was looking for. And that's why I went and immediately got these Rogue Bladework scales, which I'm never going to complain about these. Don't get me wrong there. But since then, I've had the opportunity to own and handle a few other Bugouts, and the stock scales for me, I started to understand them a little bit more, and I like the knife for what it is in that stock configuration. Now, as Benchmade moves forward, they're sort of endorsing some of these aftermarket scales that are available. Companies are actually selling the knife with the aftermarket scales already on them, so you know, you can get this in a ton of different ways, and Benchmade isn't in any way not supporting that. So it is very cool that they have sort of bought into the customizable aspect of this, the same way that Spyderco has done that with a lot of their models. Benchmade is really buying in and letting this platform take on a life of its own. So when I think about Benchmade at this day and age and the way that they're progressing, but again, with everything they progress, they always sort of stay true to their character that they've kept for so long. This is the knife that more than anything else, this is the one that I think of. And this is the one that I think they'll continue to push forward with, and it will be the face of the company for a long time. You know, the big selling point for this with just the base model is it's about $120. So it's one that a lot of people can get their hands on. And then from there, you know, that just starts the brain ticking and gets people into Benchmade in a way that maybe this 556 did for me so long ago. The Bugout can be that entry-level Benchmade for some people to get them going towards something like this, and then maybe something like the Super Freak. And then, yeah, maybe down the line, if you really do get into it that much, something like this, the Anthem. So that's really how I see it, guys. Those are the 5 essential Benchmade knives that currently are in production that people should be trying to get their hands on. But there's a lot about Benchmade that I am not really into, and I'm sure people have a lot of different opinions when it comes to some people really liking the black class, or you know, some of the OTFs and the autos that they have. None of those are in this video. None of the Balisongs are in this video. So if you have a different top 5, definitely let me know about that down below. Do want to give a shout out to a guy named Josh Wilson who, in one of my preview posts on YouTube about this video, he almost nailed the top 5 when he talked about his. So yeah, I want to give him a shout out for doing a good job there. But any other questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below, guys. I appreciate you watching. Look forward to hearing from you, and I'll talk with you soon. Have a good one.